Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Gardening with Ben. If you're new to this channel, feel free to check out all my other episodes on my podcasts where there's some fantastic topics talking about all different things from planting onions, garlic to tips and tricks down at the allotment. And my first episode is all about gardening with Ben and how I got into gardening myself. So in today's episode we're going to be sharing some gardening tips, tricks and hacks what you can use in the garden and the allotment. So we're hoping to fetch these on a regular basis, possibly weekly, so that we can give you tips and tricks to try at home to get yourself better produce and plants in the garden. So make sure you grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, sit back and relax, or sit down on the allotment and have a break while you listen to Gardening with Ben podcast for today. So in this episode we're going to share with you some tips and tricks which can hopefully save you money and also help gain better plants and produce as well. So some of these I've tried myself and some I'll look at doing possibly down the line on some of my YouTube videos. So make sure you follow me on my social medias to stay up to date with all my tips and tricks, which are Gardening with Ben on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. So the first tip is to recycle pots and containers. Now when starting seedlings off, you can obviously start them off in the seed trays what you can purchase from the garden centres, but buying numerous amount of these can be expensive. I know when I started my allotment I bought 10 plastic seed trays every year and I must have about 50 now. And storing them can be really hard, and sometimes you don't need the full size of the seed tray because you don't need to plant all the seeds, and you don't need a full size seed tray for the amount of seeds what are in the packet, as it's just wasting compost and wasting space. So what I tried this year, which was a first for me, which worked really well, is I saved all my 4-pint milk cartons which I use through the year, and I must go through about 4 pinters a week. So I saved all them, and what I did, I chopped the tops off them so that it was like a rectangle size shape, and then I put about 4 holes in the bottom of each one, and I used these for starting all my seeds off, the ones that didn't have a lot of seeds in the packets. So I just filled it half full of compost, and then I planted so many seeds in each one and covered them up and put the cling film on top to keep them warm to help start them to germinate. Now this worked fantastic. I used this idea for growing all my sunflower seeds in, for growing my squash and courgettes in, my cucumber seeds, and it was perfect. It absolutely worked a treat. It didn't take up as much space as the seed tray would do, and I was recycling as well. Rather than chucking the milk cartons away to landfill to recycle, I was able to use them on my allotment. And the best thing is that I'll be able to reuse them every year, and they'll be perfect for starting all my seeds off. So this year I've been saving even more. So I'm going to have absolutely loads because I'm hoping to grow a lot more flowers on the plot this year. So I'm going to be starting loads and loads of sunflowers off on my plot. I must have had about 15 sunflower plants last year, and I'm hoping to get absolutely loads growing on my plot this year. So stay tuned to see pictures of that. So yeah, the first one is recycle pots and containers for using as seed starters. So you can use your yogurt pots, you can use juice cartons, anything to start the seeds off. If you haven't heard already, the place where I'm recording these podcasts is an app called Anchor, and it's totally free. They also put your podcasts on multiple platforms like Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts. Straight away, you can also schedule the time that you want it to go on, which is fantastic. There's also creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer, so you can record your podcast literally anywhere you want. You can also make money from your podcasts as well, with no minimum listenership whatsoever. So the more times it gets played, the more times you can earn money from it. And there's everything you need to make your podcast all in one place. So if you download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, you can get started with your free podcasts. Now, the next one is something that my nan always used to do, and that was to give her plants cups of tea. You might be laughing, why would I give my plants cups of tea? But what she used to do is that she always used to save her tea bags up from her cups of tea, what she made, and then make a jug full of it up using obviously cold water. You don't want to be giving the plants hot water, and giving her plants a little drink of tea every day. And giving them cups of tea will help add nitrogen to the plant, and it will help it get better and bigger, and it will love what's in the tea to make it a better plant. So if you're wanting to try something new, why not try giving your plant a cup of tea? And it's got to be good Yorkshire tea, that's what it is. Only joking, obviously being from Yorkshire myself. But yeah, try giving your plants a cup of tea to help them get better and grow better. So the next tip for today is going to be about plant markers. Now, obviously, when you're growing plants in the garden, or if you're starting seedlings off, or taking cuttings, buying plant markers can be expensive, and it's not good to use plastic ones, as obviously plastic is not good for the environment, and sometimes the permanent marker rubs off eventually off the plastic, so it doesn't last long at all. Now, people are starting to get crafty a lot in allotments and gardens and making their own markers. Now, one way of making markers is by getting some rocks and getting children involved, painting the rocks and creating markers. You can even paint what the plant is on the markers. Say if it's a strawberry plant, you can paint a strawberry on it, or if it's a sunflower, you can paint a sunflower on it and then put it in front of the plant. Another way of making markers is if you've got an old tree in the garden that you prune each year, why not cut some branches off, scrape the bark off it, and then you can write on the bark, on the branch, what the plant is, and then you can just stick that in the ground, and that will last you a good couple of years at least. It might rub off, it might not do, but it should last you a couple of years, and it saves you having to go out and buy them plant markers. You can just make your own out of branches by scraping the bark off the end and writing it on with permanent marker, and there you go, you have a marker. So that's two ways of creating markers for your garden, and they look more natural rather than using the plastic ones. They'll fit better in the garden and they'll look better and nicer, especially the rock ones where you paint them. I'm no artistic person, definitely not. I'll leave that job to my niece, but try making your own markers and putting them around your plants, and it'll make it look a lot more better than the plastic ones, and obviously you're helping the environment by doing it. So that has been a short little episode of a few little hints and tips what you can try in your garden to help the environment, find cheaper methods, and to provide better plants in the garden and at home. So I hope you've enjoyed these tips and tricks. These will come on a regular basis, so make sure you click that subscribe button or follow button stay up to date with our podcasts, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow on tomorrow's podcast. So once again, thanks for listening. Make sure you follow me on my social medias, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, all Gardening with Ben, and feel free to check out my website as well, www.gardenandallotment.com, and that is in the description of this podcast as well. Thanks for listening everyone, and remember, keep gardening.